tu español. I'll try to say a few Spanish words, but only the ones I know. I used to be a policeman. The only words I know is how to arrest people. So she's going to have to go in herself. We're good or shit too. I'm a retired policeman. Maybe you can tell her I don't know how to say retired. I'm a viejito policeman.
Dad, Mr. Nicholls.
How are you? Stephanie, did you miss Jessica? She's new.
I didn't. Hi.
Tell her retired means I can't arrest people anymore. Well, I tell her,
What are you going to scare off?
no, wherever I work, wherever you work, enough Spanish to do that job. So when I was, the only job I did was arrest people in Spanish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did I leave enough or someone else?
I didn't say that, did I?
No.
Well, we better learn Spanish.
Okay, ladies. Time to rock and roll. Time to reconvene. Okay, you're on. I just want to make sure. Okay. Well, for the last 5 weeks, you've learned about how to handle your money. So how many of you have a budget, the one-page budget, or any budget? And the rest of you have an excuse because, oh. Well, you need to have.
For those of us who can spell.
It's really, really important. So, ladies, I want you to welcome Erica as a full-fledged member of SMURF. Okay, so now, Ed's been here a couple times. He's done a couple different things, but this is some positive stuff that you can learn and work with yourself and your children. And they've come all the way from Corona to do this for you. So please welcome Ed Nicholls.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening, ladies. How are you? You know, I always study up. This is my material that I use. You got a handout. Does anyone not get a handout? I think I saw a few people. I've been here, this is my 4th year. I went back and I looked at all the handouts I've given over the years. I'm a retired policeman. Thank you, Paul. Let me even pass a few of those out. And I retired in January 5th of 2010. And my first handout that I used when I came to your group was January of 2010. So when I retired, I knew I wanted to teach leadership, but I did not know what that was going to look like. So you literally were the first event that I came out to speak to. And when I came out, I don't know, have any of you been here that long? I spoke about Dr. Stephen Covey and the 7 habits of highly effective people, because he's one of my inspirations for leadership. And my stuff wasn't done yet, the stuff I talk about. What you're getting today is the only thing I talk about anymore. I used to teach team building and strategic planning and Dr. Covey stuff, and what I teach now is stuff that I put together. It's kind of like my own music. It's common stuff. It's leadership. You say, leadership, I'm not going to go off and I'm not going to run a large corporation, Mr. Nicholls, so why are you, I call myself Mr. Nicholls because I'm a substitute school teacher. And that's what they call me. So if you catch me calling myself Mr. Nicholls, you guys, you can call me Ed. So this is the Legendary Leadership Academy, is what I teach. And so when I got out, I said, I'm going to go out and look for teaching jobs. I'm going to teach adults how to be leaders. And you were the first job I had. So I talked about a little bit of this that first time. And each time I've come out, I talked a little bit more about these things that we're going to talk about today and next week. So you may have heard some of it. I'm going to show a video today and next week. And I think you'll like both of them. They're inspirational. And my goal in life is to inspire hope. I saw a study not too long ago that said 60% of all kids now have no hope for the future. They see, you know, the negativity, the fighting, the shootings, the economy, and they've given up hope. When 60%, more than half of our kids have given up, there's something wrong. There is hope. They just don't see it. So as I got into teaching, that very first year, I met a lady named Joan. She worked at one of the schools, and she said, "Can you teach leadership to my kids?" And I said, "Well, I've never taught to kids. I've taught police officers. I was teaching leadership for the last 20 years in police work. So I said, I don't know. I've never done it. I didn't know if it would work. I didn't know if kids would listen or understand what I was talking about. So I came out and taught her 5th and 6th graders about leadership. And from the time I started talking to you guys and I started teaching kids, it was 1 school the first year, it was 2 schools the next year, 4 schools, and then now 11. I go to all 11 schools that have an after-school program in Corona and Norco. And then from there, I've picked up 2 more schools in the school district. I go to 2 schools in Moreno Valley, and most of my message now goes to young people. And I really feel that I'm making a difference in bringing hope to them. And also, I want to create new leaders. That's what I want to do. How many of you have gone to the polls and you wanted to vote for somebody, but there was nobody you really liked? And the only way I can help change that, I can't change the existing ones. What I'm doing is trying to build a pool of really good leaders for our future. And by teaching them what I teach. So if you can, that's Mrs. Nicholls. Stephanie, wave. Say hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie.
She was a single mom when I met her. And I was a single dad. And now we're married. And I say that only because I understand some of your struggles. Single dads have similar struggles to you. They're just backwards, like looking in a mirror. And I know the struggles that Stephanie's had when she was a single mom. So again, there's hope. I don't know. I'm not that. There's other skinnier guys out there. She likes me. Enough about that. Okay. So this is what I teach. It's called the 8 Qualities of Great Leaders. And I studied leaders all the time. I've been teaching leadership, more than 250 leaders. And I wrote down everything that those 250 leaders ever said, did, or talked about leadership, or things that were said about them. And then I categorized these things because some of them were the same. And the top 8 categories were these 8 qualities. And then I named it the 8 Qualities of Great Leaders. And I have role models assigned to each of the qualities. I started with 1 role model, and now I have 2 or 3 for each quality. We're only going to talk about the one that the main role model for each quality today and next week. But these are, if you have these 8 qualities in your life, you're going to be a great leader. These are the 8 qualities of great leaders. And I believe that with all my heart. And much of this message is inspired by God. And I say that because I'm a faithful Christian. I've had struggles throughout my life. I told you I'm divorced. I've had to seek God. I chase after God now with all my heart. And He inspires me every day about this stuff and going out. This is what I do. This is my life. I don't get rich doing this, but I do in here because I'm bringing hope to everybody. Everybody needs this. And you say, well, you only teach kids now. No, this message is for everybody. It doesn't matter where you are in your life. If you're doing really well, it will take you even farther. If you're struggling, it will bring you up to where you need to be, a solid foundation. So it reaches every one of us. And again, I believe it's inspired by God because I seek God. I read my Bible. I stay in touch, and He talks to me and tells me, yeah, do this, don't do that, and I listen. So we'll start out by talking about what is leadership. This is a modified quote. I claim it's mine because I've taken pieces from other quotes. But leadership is the scientific art of influencing and inspiring people in order to achieve common goals and objectives. It is the simplest definition for leadership, but you say scientific. Scientific means if you study these 8 qualities or you study anybody's qualities, for example, Dr. Stephen Covey has the 7 habits. If you study leadership like science, it will work. If I dropped a book on this table, it would hit the table every time. I drop it, hits the table. And I tell the kids, what principle of science is that? Gravity. Every time I drop the book, it will hit the table. Every time you use these qualities of great leaders, you will have success. When you use the qualities of great leaders, you will be successful. Does that mean you'll be rich and famous? No. A lot of them weren't rich and famous. Some of them died while doing their leadership job. Because I talk about Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King. So I'm not promising you a rose garden, or you're not going to get rich and famous or have a big house necessarily. What I'm going to tell you, though, is when you struggle in life, these are the things that will keep you afloat. These are the things that will make you get through it much easier. And I know because I've had a lot of struggles in my life, too. My life hasn't always been easy. And my friends, I've been around friends who've struggled. And I'll only tell you this because I'm a Murrieta guy, only because my mom and dad live here. They live right in the colony. Do you know where the colony is? Right here. My dad passed away in November. So that was a new struggle for me. I was blessed to have mom and dad for me, 54 years. That gave away my age. I am old and I'm working on my diet. But so we all struggle with stuff. It's the nature of life in this place. We can either be happy when we struggle or we can be sad. I choose to be happy. So I looked at it. Did I have moments? I cried when my dad died. I had moments. But I didn't have those moments in front of other people, except for maybe Mrs. Nicholls. She saw me. But because my family needed me to be strong. See, when we put other people first, when we worry about other people instead of ourselves, we forget about our sadness because we're worried about raising somebody else up. And the premise of this leadership is putting other people first, influencing and inspiring. It's right in the definition. And does anyone know what inspire means? Well, no? Inspire, in spirit. It comes from the Greek, in spirit. I believe, and I think most faithful, God-loving people believe, that there was something about us before we were born, and there's going to be something about us after. That's called our soul, our spirit. And so what I say is, inspire means in spirit. It's my job in life to go fill up people's spirits, like a gas tank at the gas station. You fill it up, you say, oh, $4 a gallon, for heaven's sakes. Inspiring people sometimes is hard because we're challenged. Like when my dad was sick and we knew he was going to die, those were hard days for me. But my job was to inspire the others. Inspire my dad in his last days. Inspire my mom, who was going to lose a man she'd spent 56 years with. Inspire my kids who were about to lose their grandfather. You see what I'm saying? It's our job, all of our jobs, to inspire. Great leaders inspire. They don't worry about what's going to happen to them. They worry about the others. And you know, it's so cool. When you worry about others, you don't even think about what's going on with you. So we all struggle. So, scientific art, influencing and inspiring to achieve goals and objectives. And that's what you guys should be thinking about. And I hear Paul saying, did you write out your budgets? Do you have your one-page budget? That's a goal. Work that budget. Work that paper. And whatever it is in life you want, work for those things. Write them down. Goals and objectives. Write them down. 60% of the time, if you write down your goal and you keep track of what you're doing to achieve it, you will achieve it. 60% more often than if you don't. So that's a big deal. Here's my role models. Actually, there's 9. And I've shown a video about one of them, and we're going to see a video with him in it next week. His name is Nick Vujicic, upper right-hand corner there, Nick. And the other 8 are the 8 that I talk about with the 8 qualities. Like Abraham Lincoln, we're going to talk about him in a moment. He's my inspiration. He's my role model for purpose, living on purpose. So you can see some of Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, there's George Washington. Some of them you may not know. Some of them you may know because I've talked about them before. Like down here in the bottom left-hand corner is Coach John Wooden, the basketball coach. And a great man of character. And we're going to talk about character. That's one of the qualities. Okay, Ms. Nicholls. So one of the first quality of great leadership is purpose. You've got to know you're a leader. When I teach this to kids, I say, how many of you are leaders? And I'll get maybe 3 or 4 hands out of 30 kids. And I tell them the requirement for leadership is that you get up in the morning, you put clothes on, and you go out the door. As soon as you're out your front door, people are watching you. Whether you want to or not, you're a leader. You're either going to be a good one or a bad one. So if you're talking badly to people, then you're struggling because other people are watching you talk badly, and they'll go off and talk badly. You're either inspiring them in a good direction or a bad one. Great leaders live on purpose. That means they know that they're leaders. They know they have a responsibility every day to get up, put a smile on their face, and do their best. That's all of us. That's all we can do, our best. And if you don't think about anything else, just do your best every day. And go to bed at the end of the day knowing you did your best. But when you went outside, you're a role model. You're a leader. Leadership is everything in our lives. How many of you are leaders? See the quick definition. You're all leaders. Lead and serve. Serve just means help. Think about any job. President of the United States. We don't even have to call him president. He's a helper. He helps people. Senators, assembly people. Guess what? Helpers. Principals at the school, helpers. If you've ever been to a school and you watch these principals, they wear every hat. They're out there directing traffic with a stop sign, and then they're racing over to pick up trash with those little claw things, and they're helping a kid bandage their knee. That's all they do is help. That's all. You know, they say, oh, principal, I want to. Principal's job might be the hardest. No, because they put their heart on helping other people. That's all leaders are. How many of you help other people? I know most of you have children. There you go. Are you helping your neighbors? See, we're all struggling. So if you're struggling, you're in a place where you're saying, I'm struggling, Ed, I'm struggling. Start helping other people and you won't struggle. One, you'll forget because you're so busy helping the other person. And two, you're going to find out things will come your way. That's how God works. When you're doing what you're supposed to do, that's helping other people, all of a sudden wonderful things come into your life. You don't even, so in the early days of my life, I didn't even recognize it. Now I see it all the time. So, first quality of a great leader, purpose. Lead and serve. You guys all have a voice, you have a message. My message is leadership. It took me 48 years to figure that out. So I'm telling you right now, start looking for what your message is. What do you think Paul's message is? Papa SMURF, you call him. This guy, he's here helping you every week. This is his life. This was his message. Right? God gives us all a message. Figure out what your message is and start peddling it. I mean, I'm knocking on doors every day. I'm up to 20. I teach an academy. This is called the Academy. 8 weeks. And this year alone, this school year, I will do 20 academies. 28-week academies. And guess what? I get paid $0 for teaching those academies. Now, I'm trying to figure out a way, because there's more than last year, and I'm taking days off of substitute teaching, so I'm going from making money to not making money, so I'm trying to find a way to make some money, not get rich, pay for itself. So next year, we're going to start charging a little something. But I want to do 30 schools next year, 30 academies, because there's kids out there that need this message. Because, again, my job now is to instill hope. I want them catapulting out of 6th grade or 8th grade or whatever grade level, I catapult them out into the world feeling strong and powerful. And it's even harder because here I can talk about God and my relationship to God. I have to be a little careful in the public schools. I still talk about it though. I talk about my priorities. We're going to talk about that next week. My first priority is God. My second priority is Mrs. Nicholls. So I mean, I tell them what priorities are. And I throw God out there. I just don't tell them what to believe. They'll figure it out. I hope they do. Next. So, purpose, attitude. Second quality of a great leader, attitude. Be a bright light in dark places. And I tell the kids, that the world is dark. It's getting darker all the time, isn't it? You just saw the shooting with all the policemen. I'm a retired policeman. And I had lunch with some of my friends that are policemen. And they were scared. I mean, there's a crazy man out there wanting to shoot them. And they don't know, just pull up at any stoplight and start shooting at you. Dangerous. The world is dangerous. The world is hard. I don't tell these kids that the world is dark to scare them. I tell them that the world is dark so that they're ready for it. And I say, these are the tools that you need to get through the hard times. I call these 8 qualities the tools. I tell them they wear a tool belt. They put these tools in their tool belt. And they'll run into situations where they need to live on purpose, help people more often. And then they can look at their life, and when they struggle, they can say, wait a minute. My attitude wasn't good today. Maybe that was my struggle. So they've got a place to look, and guess what? You do too. I'm gonna just borrow one of these. That's why I give you this. You just keep this in your binders. That's why I punch the holes, because I know you guys have binders. This can stay with you forever, and I don't know if I told all of you, but if you want to take notes, I made a little lines on the back, so you don't have to, those books get full. But these are your tools, and you guys struggle. The world's dark for you too. It's dark for all of us. Your darkness might be different than mine and somebody else's. But these tools will help you through. Having a great attitude. Someone said, attitude is everything. Have you ever heard that? I don't believe attitude is everything. I think attitude is the main thing. Because no matter what your situation, if you have a good attitude, you can get through it. You can absolutely, you get to choose your attitude. You get to choose your frame of mind. Kids come into the classroom all the time and they say, oh, Mr. Nicholls, they picked on me, and they're crying. And I try to teach them. They can pick on you, but you don't have to accept it. Someone yells at you, you don't have to accept it. And you don't have to fight back. You don't have to yell back at them. But I've done it. And I know a lot of your situations are with exes. I have an ex, and she would yell at me, and I want to yell back. I don't do that anymore. Sometimes I'll say, may I please talk to you tomorrow? And I hang up. And then I go over here, and I'm all mad. But gradually, I start thinking more rationally. I start thinking like a leader. And then when I make that call, now I'm calmed down, and I'm thinking what's best for my daughter that we share, and it goes much better. You guys choose. Look for ways of walking away from those kind of situations, putting your head together, and coming back as your real self, not your angry self. Attitude, you choose. You say, oh, life's hard. I should be sad. No, you don't have to be sad every time life's hard. You know, the thing like with my dad, there were moments I cried. But when I cried for my loss. Right? That's okay, I'm going to miss him. I miss him. I have moments where I miss him. I want to call him. Oh, gosh, he's not there. But then I think about my mom, who had him for 56 years. And she walks by the bed that he slept in every day, you know, because she sleeps in the same room. So I think, you know, it's a lot worse for Mom. But what I'll do is I'll call Mom, how you doing? And I'll say, you know, I thought about Dad today. She said, yeah, me too. So we build strength by, you know, talking to each other. Be a friend to all. That's the hardest one. How many of you have somebody that you don't get along with very well? I do. And you know what? I go out of my way not to dislike people. But we all have that. What I do now is I find one thing I like about them. Even like an ex. Find the one thing you like about them. And focus your attention on that positive thing, because then you're dealing with someone you like. Find reasons to like people, not reasons to not like people. I don't know if that sounded right. Look for reasons to like people, as opposed to looking for reasons to dislike people, because we do that. We all do that. So do your best to make a friend out of everyone. I tell stories about this one friend of mine. And he was an older guy, and he helped me in my job that I was working. He was retired, and he was showing me how to be a good manager. And I would see this guy, and he liked everybody. Have you ever met someone that never said one bad word about anyone else? I've never met anyone like that in my life. We all have somebody that frustrates us, and we all say, ooh, I don't think I like them, or they frustrate me, or they're hard to deal with. This guy, Richard, he loved everybody. You know why? He chose to. And then he passed away of a stroke. And I went to his funeral. And at his funeral, 12 people went up on stage to talk about him, and all 12 people said the same exact thing. He made a friend out of everyone he ever met. He liked everyone. It was just as hard for him as it is for us, but he chose to be a friend to everybody. So having a great attitude will get you through life, through life's hard times. Mother Teresa was a great role model. She lived in Calcutta, India. She was a nun. How many of you have been Catholic, or I grew up Catholic? Yeah, I'm a recovering Catholic, I've heard that. Hallelujah. My mom's Catholic, and I absolutely love my parents. They are very faithful, taught me to find God, but I found God in my Christian faith. But Mother Teresa was a Catholic nun. She goes to a little Catholic boot camp for nuns. That's where they teach them how to be a nun and the different jobs, some teaching, helping the sick and poor. Her first assignment, Calcutta, India, poorest place in the world, people dying every day. She starts this little home for the sick, and every day she's holding someone or comforting someone that's going to die, and she knows it. But they said about Mother Teresa, every day she had a smile on her face. Every single day, smile on her face. And all she saw was ugliness. And 5 years would go by, and they'd offer her another assignment. She'd say, no, I'm just going to stay right here. She spent her whole career in Calcutta, India. with a smile on her face, even though she slept on a mattress about yay thick. When there was no food, she didn't eat. When there wasn't enough medicine, she didn't get helped. Smiled every day. And they said, Mother Teresa, why do you want to stay in this place? And she said, because these people, their lives have been horrible. And I want for them on their last day on earth to see a smiling face and to know that they were loved. Wow. If she can do it, I can do it. I struggle. I have days. Happy. I'm going to show you a little video. Mrs. Nicholls, this is the video. It's called Happy. Have any of you seen this video? We're going to watch maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'll finish with the last 2 qualities for this week. We'll have 4 qualities under our belt. So all you have to do is minimize that. Right-click. It'll say End Show. Right-click. End Show. Yes, End Show. Now minimize that. Now hit chapters. And hit, go to Menage Scene.
Would it surprise you to know that in a recent survey, this rickshaw driver, Manoj Singh, is found to be as happy as the average American?
বাড়িতে ভালো লাগে একদিন এদিকে ফাঁকা হাওয়া আসে বর্ষাকালে একটু কষ্ট হয় ঝাপটা যদি কালি দিতে পারে তখন অসুবিধা নেই প্লাস্টিক উঠে আছে তার সাইডে প্লাস্টিক দেওয়া প্লাস্টিক দিয়ে জানলা আছে জানলাতে হাওয়া ভালোই আসে ভালোই থাকে খারাপ কিছু সকালবেলা তিনি যখন ওরা বসে থাকে চাকর সামনে ওরা যখন ওরা টাকা রাস্তার দিকে বাবাই আসবে তখন ওদের মন ভালো লাগে প্লাস আমাকে যখন বাবা বলে ডাকা আমার মনটা আরো খুব খুশি হয় আর কি ওই বাচ্চা কাছে যখন ওই ধরুন তুলতে গেলে কি বাচ্চা কাছে এমন দেখে তখন আমার মুখটা একটু উঁচু হয়ে যায় যে আমার মুখে একটু বড় লোক নেই হয়তো নুন ভাতে খাচ্ছি কিন্তু খুব আনন্দ লাগে না কারোর সাথে ঝগড়া জানি কারোর সাথে মিলে হয়ে গিয়ে আমার মনে খুব আনন্দ লাগে আমরা সবাই বন্ধু
For hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, people have studied depression and psychological illness. The goal of psychologists was primarily to rid a patient of their problems. Recently, however, modern science has begun to look at how happiness works. What are the building blocks of a life that's not just free of illness, but one that flourishes with a deep and genuine happiness?
When I got into happiness research, it was 1981. It was not a popular field of psychology. People thought it was flaky, that it was loose. The professor said to me, you can never measure happiness. Now, why they thought you could measure depression, which they were all doing, but you couldn't measure happiness, I'm not sure. And then in the 90s, people started getting interested in it, and now it's absolutely amazing how many people are interested.
Magazine articles and books are being written about it. There's even a new field of science called positive psychology, which studies happiness. It became the most popular class at Harvard, with 1,000 kids showing up every week for a happiness class.
The first thing is to realize that happiness can actually help you get your other goals. Have better relationships, make more money, do better at the job. People on the job are going to like you better if you're happy. What we've done, and I've done this for the last 25 years, collecting data. So we follow people and look at their moods over time. We've also looked at random samples of people from around the world, who's happy, who's not happy. Then we crunch all these numbers and we say, gee, what really matters?
By studying identical twins, people with almost exactly the same genetic makeup, researchers have discovered that approximately 50% of the differences in our happiness levels is determined by our genes. They call that our genetic set point, or our genetic set range.
Most of us are born with a certain range of happiness that we fall in most of the time. And even when really good or really bad things happen to us, we kind of tend to return to our set point.
And while 50% is genetic, amazingly, our circumstances, like what job we have, or how much money we have, our social status, our health, those things that many of us are told to focus on, they only account for 10% of the differences in our happiness.
Most people are kind of stunned at how small that is, but it still leaves 40% unaccounted for. And so our theory suggests that there is a great deal you can do to become happier, and that 40% is left for an intentional behavior, things that we can do on a regular basis to become happier. It's very important if a person wants to become happier to try not to adapt to what they're doing. So they would consciously vary what they do. It could be like when you do your daily run, you take a different route. I mean, that's not really, mind-boggling. For some people, it's going to be a lot of change. For some people, it's going to be a little, but that change is important. Sort of the variety is the spice of life.
This is a paradise to me. That's why I love it so much. And then you don't know what you're gonna see. People call me for a tour. What are we gonna see? I don't know what you're gonna see, but we're gonna see something. Look at that. That's a crawfish eater. Look at that alligator with that big log. See it? I feel like a kid, man. And right where we at there, straight ahead, my house is right there across the levee. In the afternoon, sometime I'm kind of like down a little bit. I jump on my four-wheeler and I come park right there. My house is right there. And I watch these birds pass and just listen to the stillness. This, wildlife and being out here, you don't know what you're going to see. But nature, especially like this, it's good medicine. This is my happiness.
Any discussion of happiness centers a lot on dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical in the brain called a neurotransmitter that's necessary for feelings of pleasure and happiness.
So electrical impulses come down the nerve, they hit the connection releases chemicals, the chemicals fuse to the next nerve cell, they bind to receptors in the next nerve cell, and they cause an electrical change. That chemical release that is released is called a neurotransmitter.
Pretty much as you age, from about teenage years onward, you're slowly losing dopamine synapses, and probably dopamine neurons as well. As far as we know, no one's observed those regenerating. If it's too severe, then you end up with Parkinson's disease. The body adapts to what it needs to do. So use it or lose it probably applies to some degree in the brain as well. And so the idea would be to seek out experiences that release dopamine or you need dopamine to do. The things that are best at doing that, interestingly, involve physical activity. So aerobic exercise is probably one of the best releases of dopamine, especially if you do it in novel ways.
What makes you happy? I like banana splits. I like banana peels. I like big bananas.
Brain is basically, on this level, it's very similar to a muscle. Parts of the brain that are,
I like that. Sorry. I thought you guys said it right.
Sponge. But I'll go with muscle.
Qualquer atividade física é muito importante para qualquer ser humano. Que está numa idade que todo mundo no planeta talvez sinta que já está caindo, sabe? E eu me sinto subindo ainda, sabe? Então isso me sente feliz, sabe? Muitas vezes você está fazendo, ganhando dinheiro que é bom para você, mas não está se cuidando, né? Você não está sonhando, você não está feliz. Você dorme a cabeça no travesseiro, preocupado.
It turns out that there's another component.
Much of what we believe about.
What do you want out of life?
If our values are a key component of happiness, that may explain one of the anomalies in international happiness research. According to an increasing amount of data, Japan is the least happy of the wealthy industrialized nations.
最後の質問なんですけど、今日は何の日でいらっしゃいますか？
誕生日です。
おいくつになられる？
39で
お若いですよね。
ありがとうございます。
でも誕生日の日にこういう友達と飲まれて例えばご両親とか、彼女とかどうおっしゃってたんですか？
誘われるがままに言ってますね。各自に至ります。それよりか大事なちょっと仕事の話があるんで、で彼女とは明日会います。明日会います。
After World War II, Japan's entire workforce was mobilized to rebuild the country from the ground up. For decades, they emphasized economic growth and material prosperity above all else, and their achievements were the envy of the Western world. But those achievements have come at an awful price. A telling and dangerous phenomenon is occurring in Japan. People are working such long hours and enduring so much stress that they are literally working themselves to death. It's become so common, so many people have died, that they even have a word for it: karoshi. This toxic lifestyle is leading to record low levels of happiness among the Japanese.
I'd like to be able to show you the whole video, but I can't. But what we can see out of this is you choose your happiness. And working more to get more money isn't necessarily the right way to do that. The more we work, the less happy we are. The more we chase after things and stuff and money, the less happy we are. They've proven that. And what I love about this is they said we could measure sadness, but we couldn't measure happiness. There's a country called Bhutan. And I learned about this in the last Olympic Games. They did a showcase on NBC, and they showed this little country. They no longer measure gross domestic product, what the output, how much money they're making. They measure happiness. Their idea of success in their country is based on happiness. I believe we can measure happiness. And what they said was, it's about contribution. It's about being part of a family and engaging with your family. Like the man on the bayou there. Their homes are very run down. I mean, they're very poor. They come together, they share a meal once a week. Every week the whole family comes together, like 30 people around a table. And the whole time they're laughing and having fun and joking. So spending more time with your family, putting out, giving back to other people, contributing, volunteering. I heard you say you volunteer, you're not making any money. You're making something so much more valuable than that. and you have something to put on your resume. So what do we do when the economy's tight? We volunteer for something. Because it's going to do two things. It's going to give you something on your resume to say you're a hard worker and you're willing to work for nothing. And it's going to make you happy because you're helping other people. Say that again. It makes your kids happy. And you're helping others. That idea, the brain, right, and that dopamine, they say that if you do an act of kindness for someone else, that person, I do something nice for you, can I get you another cup of coffee? I'm not going to really do it, but I would. But I'm working, I'm very sorry. But when I do an act of kindness for her, that chemical is released in her brain. And guess what else? When I do an act of kindness for her, that chemical is also released in my brain. And when you watch me do an act of kindness for her, it's also released in your brain. So one act of kindness just helped 3 people. Made us all feel better. So why wouldn't we do more of that? But what happens is we start feeling desperate. Ooh, shucks, I don't have enough money. I got to work more. I got to be away from my kids more. I don't have enough time to spend with my family. So one of the qualities we talk about next week is balance. So you kind of see where I'm going to go with that. Balance. Working's good, but don't work too much because you'll start getting sad and depressed, and then you'll probably lose your job. I lost a job. How many of you ever lost a job? Right? I think most of us at one time or another have lost a job. Well, guess what? That's not that. When we work too much, don't let that get you sad. Go out and help somebody. You'll feel better. Next. Character. This is one of my favorite role models, and next week I'm going to bring you something. I'll show it to you on the next slide. But Coach John Wooden was a basketball coach. He coached UCLA. He never worried about winning or losing. He didn't care. No, and even his players, the announcers, would say, Coach, you never talked about winning a game. What Coach Wooden taught his players to do is do their best. Don't focus on what the other team's doing. Focus on what you're doing. Do the little things well. He taught his players. Now, these are the best players in the country coming to UCLA to play basketball. The first thing he teaches them is how to put their shoes and socks on. They thought, this old guy's crazy. And they'd say, and freshmen and sophomores would every year. They said, we just won the national championship. We're the best team in the country. And we come back for the next season. And the first thing he teaches us, again, is how to put our socks and shoes on. But what Coach Wooden says was focus on what you can do. Don't worry about everybody else. Don't worry about the world that's trying to beat you down. Focus on what you can do. We get so distracted about the things that are attacking us that we're not worrying about everybody else. And when you worry about everybody else, you're not doing your best. It's natural. You have this, we get distracted. You want to look. No. Focus on what you can do. So he taught his players how to do their best. And they won 10 national championships in 12 years. And he used a thing called the Pyramid of Success. Mrs. Nicholls. And I'm going to bring you a copy of this next week. You actually have a little copy on your handout. So you've got the 8 quality, and then you see the pyramid. I'm going to bring you one that looks just like that has the writing on it. And I actually have a signed copy because I got to meet Coach Wooden when I was a young man. He's not with us anymore. He died in 2010. He lived 99 years and 8 months. And I'll tell you the reason I believe he lived 99 years. Probably physically his body, he didn't have cancer or anything like that. But because he did his best every day. He didn't worry about what he didn't do. He didn't look too far back into his past. And he didn't look too far ahead. He lived in the moment, he did his best every day, and he was satisfied with that. And that releases a great deal of stress. If you're satisfied with your effort, that's all that matters. It takes a lot of weight off of your body. This pyramid of success, he created this in 1934. Actually, no, I'm sorry. He created the definition of success. It's a lot of words, but basically it says do your best. That was his definition of success. Not a big house, not a big car, not a lot of money. Do your best. That was his definition. When you do your best, you're successful. And that's different for all of us. We're all capable of doing our best. So then he said, I wanted to teach that to my players in 1934, but I didn't know how to tell them what that looked like. So he said, I got to create something. So he creates this pyramid. It took him 14 years. 14 years to create this because every block had to be in the right place. Like the bottom row is called the foundation of the pyramid. And there's a reason why those things are there. Industriousness is hard work, and enthusiasm is when you're like one of those rah-rah people. You keep a positive attitude, you believe you can do anything. And the 3 middle ones are about people. Friendship, loyalty, and cooperation. Because everything in your life is about your relationship with other people. right? And when we're struggling with our exes, we're mad at them, we're angry at them. You probably have every reason to be mad at them. But guess what? That being mad at them hurts you. Doesn't hurt them. Matter of fact, most of the time, and I can say from experience, when they wanted to get me mad. So when they got me mad, they won. But that's weight on you. When you're angry with someone else, that's weight on you. I don't care if it's your ex or you're mad at your parents, right? You got to forgive. We're going to talk about that next week. But it's all about friendship. It's all about relationships. Because life is about what we do for others, not what we do for ourselves. So this pyramid, I'm going to bring you a copy just like this, except up in this left-hand corner up here, it'll be signed. It won't be an original signature because it's a photocopy, but you'll see, you can say, I actually have a signed copy from Coach John Wooden, and I'm your witness. I watched him sign it for me when I was 13. Okay. So that's 3 qualities. We got purpose, attitude, and character, right? So if you live on purpose and you know you're a leader, and you go out every day and try to put a smile on your face, and you're going to have days when your frown comes on, and hopefully you'll have a Mrs. Nicholls, because I had a day like that. She said, what would you tell the kids? I hate when she uses my stuff against me. I didn't even know why I was having a bad day. But she said, put a smile on your face for 10 minutes. That's what you would tell the kids. So I did. It took like 2 minutes, seemed like 4 days. And then she told the joke. Mrs. Nicholls is very funny. She is hilarious. And so she told the joke, and I laughed, and the smile wasn't hard anymore. And after 10 minutes, I didn't even remember why I was upset or why I was having a bad day, but the rest of the day went well. So when I tell you you're having a bad day, make yourself smile. Make yourself smile. No matter how ugly it looks, make yourself smile. And in 10 or 15 minutes, you'll be happy. It's possible. I believe it because she tried it out on me. Okay, purpose, attitude, character, balance. Last one we're going to talk about today. Balance, priorities. Every day, look at it. Am I putting God first in my life? Get up. Every morning you wake up, you have the ability to sit on the edge of your bed and say one quick prayer. Thank you, God, for another day. Every day, every morning, say a quick prayer. Every morning. I do it. Mrs. Nicholls is my witness because I sit up on the edge of the bed. I'm not even awake. But God knows. I say, God, thank you. Thank you for today. Please be my strength because I know I'm going to struggle today. Every day I do this. And it works. Someone was talking about praying for something. You know what I do now? I pray and thank God that I'm going to get what I want. And I'll tell you, I have a binder, just like your, may I borrow your binder? My binder that I keep track of all my schools is in one binder, just like this. I don't have backup copies. I do now, but I didn't then. So I was out and about peddling my program to some school. All week I was at different schools, lost my white binder. Everything, every document I needed was in it. My instinct was to say, oh, this is horrible. No, you know what I said? I said, God, you deliver me every day. I know you know where my binder is, and I know you're going to help me find it. So I said, thank you for finding my binder. And all I did was retrace my steps. I didn't worry once about that binder. Because I gave all of my strength to God and said, it's yours. I'll go be your feet. You know where it is. You will help me find it. I went to every school. I didn't panic. Have you seen a white binder? No? Okay, thank you. Went back to the other school. Have you seen a white binder? No. I went to the next school, and the lady who I deal with was out in the classroom. I came into her office, and on her desk was my white binder with a note. Please give this to Ed Nicholls. I didn't call and say, they knew it was my binder. God told them, hey, that's his binder. And there was a sticky note. That sticky note wasn't from that lady. That sticky note was from God. I believe that with all my heart. Did I not? You remember me doing this. Whatever it is you need, God will help you find it. And you've got to have faith and believe in him. Saying, oh, please help me find a binder, and going, oh, I'm never going to find it. I'm never going to find it. It's lost forever. I've done that before. And a lot of times I didn't find it because I didn't give God the trust that he deserved to help me find it. Balance, priorities, God. I always put my wife second. My kids don't like that. But when you're married, that's the person that you swore to God you would take care of. Only person on the face of the earth I promised I would take care of. I kind of do that with my kids, but I didn't have to stand in front of a bunch of people and do it. So I put Mrs. Nicholls second, my kids third, my family fourth, my friends fifth. Never let your friends come between you and your family. If you got friends saying, hey, you can do that next time, you can go to